What's up, everyone? It's Zarkon, aka 5th grade Duelist, and I'm here with Shunping Zhu, YCS champion, UDS champion, and points playoffs competitor. Before we start, I would like to announce that I have a sponsorship with Gem Tech Accessories, where you can buy little deck boxes with like beautiful art and playmats and sleeves and much more. And you can get 10% off if you use my code 5th grade, 5THRATE. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. So, Shu, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shunping Shu, competitive player from North America. Was born in China, came to North America around 10, 12 years ago. And then just been playing TCG here. Had a YCS Pasadena win in Sky Striker format, and then in 2018. And then in 2020, a UDS win with the more known Dragon Link from. And then recently, last year, been grinding wool points, topped the early WCQ, top 64, but unfortunately didn't go any further. And unfortunately didn't make two awards.
That's okay. You came close, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That sounds depressing the way I worded that. But you know what
It's
I
good.
mean.
Yeah.
We're proud of you. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, we did introduce you like 2 years ago. But we invited him back mostly because I invited him again and forgot that I already had him on my podcast. And then I was like, oh, whoops. Hey, you're already on my podcast. And he's like, we can do it again. And I was like, sweet. That was a nice save. So here we are. We're not really going to go into the standard questions about him as a competitive player and like how his roots and things like that. What we're really going to do is answer your questions that you ask on Twitter, which is mainly what's the best way to test, how do you side deck, and how do you build a deck, which I will ask one at a time. So first and foremost, why don't we talk about the how to build a deck?
It's already a pretty broad topic. Like, building deck is not easy nowadays, for sure. And then, honestly, the easier way for the general public might not sound good, but it's actually just copy others. Copy. Net decking is like people don't like net decking, which I understand, but net decking is a way, like a relatively easier route to get started. Especially like if there's already data's tournament results supporting it, then net deck is probably gonna skip you a lot of time just to even find what deck would be good. So I think that's actually like an easy way to start. Like even for me, I don't necessarily able to like build every single archetype at the beginning of the format, which usually I have a testing group, and then we kind of just sign each other different decks, and then work on our own for like a week. Like for example, for like the most recent, like the current format after YCS Philly, I signed myself, I think it was TEARLAMENT, Kashtira, and Sky Striker, because decks I think would be good or even at least have a chance. And then while my other friend was doing like Spry, Branded, and Labyrinth, and then there's another guy doing like other decks. And then after about like a week, we kind of just share thoughts on like what's viable, what's not viable, what's like almost wasting time to even looking at it. Like Striker was unfortunately one of them. And then what's like very good that could be meta depending, which like for example, Kashtira was obviously one of them. And then for my personal preference, I ended up figuring out Tier was one of the things that has very decent potential. So we worked on that. We and was doing very well. At least me personally did very well at the WCQ, where it was TEARLAMENT. And then that's like one way of at least I do in my testing group.
Yeah.
Which I found very, very helpful.
Yeah. Like, to go back to the net decking thing, like, a lot of times I'll see people on Facebook being like, hey, I built this deck, can you give me feedback? And then it's just a bunch of people who don't really know what they're talking about giving feedback on this deck, when really there are already lists out there that you can just follow instead of trying to build something on your own. Because, like, deck building is very difficult.
Yeah, deck building is difficult. I would say don't net deck from like random places. Like Facebook group is probably not the place to go, honestly. If anything, try to net deck something like that has like tournament results. Like for example, there's like at least a top 8 regional, I'll say, and then ideally like a YCS topless, or if hypothetically, for example, we are preparing for a completely new format where there has not been any tournaments. At that situation, maybe even some like winner or top 4 of like big case tournament, big console tournament, if those get posted. I think those like lists with results like supporting it is definitely more worthy than just random lists from nowhere.
Yeah, and you can always change the list after testing it. It's just a good
Mm-hmm.
ground zero type of a thing. Like, I know it's not possible, like, for instance, I like to play decks, like, before their release type of a thing. So, oftentimes, there's no list to really go off of. So,
Yep.
that sucks because it would make my life easier if I had a starting point. But, like, I think if you have a deck that's established and it has, like, a template that's already been proven, then it does you a service because that way you're focusing on technical play and, like, learning the deck and learning the combos and things like that versus trying to
Mm-hmm.
like do all those with a less than perfect deck.
Also, like talking about changes after net decking. A lot of people would do that. They like copy a list just like from like a tournament that has results, but they just immediately start changing things without even testing few games or at all. I think that's actually not good to do. Like eventually, yes, you probably find out, okay, this list isn't that perfect. There's still things need to be improved, need to be changed. But more often, I think it's better to just don't change anything you net decked. Give like several matches first. I'll say at least 5, and then figure out, or even it's a combo deck, and figure out the combos first in solo mode, and then after that, once you're like comfortably not only understanding how the deck itself, but also understanding what the player you like the player you copy from, what kind of his or her strategy of this specific list. After you understand those, then I think it will be time to actually make changes based on your preference or not. I think that will actually be a more effective way because like I've seen a lot of people just straight copied like my list, and I can almost tell they barely even know how it works. They start adding different things or changing different things or remove the key parts that in my eyes that's like it like shouldn't be moved, and then that just they ended just making like they just ended up making a worse version of my list after copying it all the time,
Yeah. I mean,
which I think
yeah.
just counteractive at this point if they do that.
Yeah, that is a good point. It's sort of like, following a recipe type of a thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like to bake cookies, but, like, I'm going to
Yeah.
follow a recipe, like, ingredient per ingredient, and then try it out, and then see how I like it, and
Yeah.
then make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I just eat the cookies and stop baking. I don't know. Okay, cool. Let's see. So, whenever you're kind of, like, doing the deck building process, like, what is it that helps you decide, like, the ratios, what changes to make? Is it testing? Is it theory? Is it combination?
Mm, honestly, let me think. There's like one big theory that I always follow or try to follow almost every format if it applies, which is there are usually 3 different kind of deck in the game, being combo, control, mid-range. Like the nowadays I would say just the basic 3. This is originally Hoban theory. If you don't know, Patrick Coburn has a book, Road of Kings. It definitely it. What I'm saying right now, this theory is obviously included in there, and then I think this is almost the fundamental theory of Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Then these three different kind of decks, combo control mid range, has like a triangle effect. It's like you play Pokemon. There's like fire, water, grass, that kind of relationship. Control are good against mid range because mid range don't really have that many non-engine usually to preventing combo going from the combo deck. So once the combo deck finish their combos, they pretty much win. That's how usually combo decks works. And then control deck can actually counter that because control deck has more non-engine spots that has higher chance to just either stop combo deck finishing their combo, or actually even break the combo afterwards with with more copies of non-engines. And then mid range there is because the engine is better, so like not better, not necessarily better, but because the engine is larger, it usually has more power than a small engine from the control deck. So you see this triangle relationship here, and this kind of builds up the fundamental theory of Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays. And then sometimes some decks hits like nowadays because Yu-Gi-Oh is so complicated, it's almost hard to even fit into which specific category. Give an example, be like Cash Tier from before the last Boundless. It can do a lot. Like the going first, like Shangri-La, double Shangri-La, Arise Her Diabolus as Lock 5, or just, even the standard Diabolus as Arise Her. That's like almost like the combo itself looks like almost as winning as almost like a combo deck. But the whole deck uh, still fits more in mid ranges. So I think whenever picking a deck or even building a deck, it's probably first to figure out what category it belongs to, and then it will, based on that, it will pretty much automatically tell you which, like how many non-engine spot you can have. Giving an example, TEARLAMENT nowadays definitely a big combo deck. So the most non-engine you can have are probably 3 or like at most 6 out of 40 cards. And then uh, a water new deck, Rescue Ace, which is incoming in like Dueling Nexus, right? That's actually more a mid-range deck because how many different monster and the different kind of spell trap card you see in this archetype in the engine, you probably at the end you have about like I would say 9 to 12 non-engine spots for it. And then water control that even existing. Like if you don't play furniture, then labyrinths, like the stone labyrinths, all the stone cards are non-engines, right? So at that point, you see labyrinths is the deck where you can just fit a lot of non-engine cards in there. And then once you figure out what archetype belongs to which kind of category, you're able to determine like kind of sort of a ratio for the deck already.
So what would purely be?
Purity is actually a very unique example that almost doesn't belong to any of these categories. Because from the first look at it, there's so many spells, it feels like a striker, it feels like, oh, it might be on control. But the turn one combo, after you know, like feel the deck a little bit, it plays itself more like a combo deck. Because the goal is to turbo out an unbeatable water and just sits on it. And then because of that, I don't like. Obviously, the theory don't, because the game is getting more complicated. The theory don't even apply 100% of the time, and I think purity is like one of the few examples here that actually just doesn't fits in any of the category. If anything, I will call it more as a marriage now because of that. But because the combo is more similar feeling as a as a combo deck, like the turbo all more. I usually treat like as a if I'm playing purely, I will build it more like I will say probably more like a mid range. But if I'm preparing as a purely's opponent, I will actually preparing more like against a combo deck where you need more specific answer to those combos.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
like
trying to.
one
When
big
you were
series.
talking, I was like, "What is purely?" I was like, "I don't know what purely is,"
Yeah,
and I was like, "I feel dumb. I don't know
that
which one purely is."
that was a very tricky one. It actually took me quite a while to even figure it out, like a couple months ago while I was preparing that format.
Okay, I like purely. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
chat. Do you have any questions? For sure, just drop them in the chat. Uh, Let me see if I can think of any other questions for deck building. Along with deck building, what about deck choosing? Like, how do you pick the right deck?
I guess I mentioned a little bit being like combo control mid range, and there has the relationship in between, right? So if you going to a format where like it's just rock paper scissors, you go into a format expecting, oh, there might be this format is a little bit combo heavy. There's a lot of super heavy samurai around. Maybe it's better to play like a mid range, no, like a control deck, so you have more non-engines to deal with it. So it's kind of just like analyzing what kind of format you're gonna see more, like what kind of different decks existing, and then choosing some kind of decks might actually have slightly benefit in this triangle relationship. So it really you just have to know a more like ratio, like representage of the tournament you're going to of the format. That's like a but the game can be quite complicated. Like giving you another counter example, TEARLAMENT is the combo deck, right? So it naturally should be having advantage on a marriage deck like Kashtira. But Kashtira has a lot of like there's almost designed to counter tier, which at the end it make the matchup actually the opposite way, despite it's a counter against mid range. But the mid range deck, because it's Kashtira, has a Rise Heart and it has Shifter, actually kind of counters tier more.
Yeah. So, why tier? Like, have you been messing with tier since it had that mega ban list stuff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, also, why is everyone playing tier now when no one was playing tier before?
Uh, no one played here before because I kept it very, very quiet. Like I didn't say anything since post License Philly just to preparing Nats. And then I guess a lot of people saw what I did at Nats, and then after I posted, a lot of people just like copy it, give it a try, and see how it goes. That's why there's an increasing amount of tier right now.
Oh, it's
But
all you, all you.
I mean, it had happened before. Like I won't say it's the first time ever. So I'll say definitely probably has some relationship. And then for me specifically choosing tier, first of all, just a deck I like. Second of all, after Cash tier from the last ban list, it really that consistency problem just don't make me kind of feel safe enough to bring it to a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So like out of the rest of the decks, what's the one has like the most power, and then tier just ends up becoming one of the like the answer for me. Be honest, if I didn't figure out tier, I think my next choices would be I think either Cash Tier or Dragon Link.
Okay. Christian says he loves you.
Thanks.
Guys, get a room, okay? This is professional podcasting. Alright. So I think we talked enough about building a deck. So why don't
Mm-hmm.
we go to the next question, which is how to make your side deck and how to side.
Um, See, side deck honestly is 100% related to the main deck. Like they are not separate part. They are honestly the same. Like they are just the same thing. Where sides are usually obviously more situational cards because you don't guarantee have them every single game. So you just have to think about what kind of situation you need to deal with. Well, it's like the more likely losing situation that you need a non-engine card to win. At that point, that will be the thing in to put in your side. Game out example. Well, I guess I will mention it here again since I've been playing it for several months already. Um, Going first as a tier player, I got shifted. What's the card? What are the cards that can possibly when meters came after a shifter. And there are obviously not that many. And there are some of them that can, but not ideal to have. And then one example being crossout. I did play crossout in full power tier back then during like January. But it was because tier was at full power. So I'm able to carry those cards. Despite it kind of sometimes breaks. But nowadays, I don't think like having 3 crossout 1 shifter is possible to be played in my main deck against shifter. So that just not an option for me. And the other cards I saw, Callback Grave is one of them, and then Callback Grave do have other implications to it against other matchup. Example being like Dragon Link Sphere, Labyrinths, like the Furniture Labyrinths especially, and then what's the other one? VS, you can stop the rock adding one from the graveyard, and then Branded, which Callback is obviously good against it. For those matchup where um, having Callback Grave not only stops going shifter going first, despite it's a low chance because it's a 1, but it does do that. And then it has implication for other matchup outside this one specific situation. And that's why Callback become a thing. Another one, which is a tricky card, is Book of Moon. I actually see that card as a shifter out. Mainly specifically due to the fact how Kashtira functions. So very simple. You get shifter, you pass turn. They summon their first monster, you book it. If they don't have lands, or if they don't have another starter with birth, the cash opponent most likely pass turn. And then shifter ended here. Which now you go back to your turn again. And here can now combo again because they get the turn back. Where at this very specific situation here, Book of Moon is actually an answer to Callback Grave, to Dimension Shifter. And then so those become the guaranteed sidecars in my side. And then some of you guys probably already heard me mention it. I want cards to have, like especially side deck cards, or maybe even sometimes mint deck cards, mint deck non-engine cards to have multi-purposes against different decks, especially when we are in like a diverse format. That's also why like Crossout, like I mentioned earlier, it almost does nothing besides like if I play 3 Crossout 1 shifter, it pretty much does nothing else. I'm not able to fit other weird non-engine cards for Crossout to banish. And then even somehow in the very low chance I play a tier mirror, it's not like I have enough names or even shield cards to even cross off on my deck. I don't want to do that. At that point, if the card has this one unique but very niche purposes, it's probably not going to be played. However, on the other cards like Book of Moon can be used against Lab, especially the Furniture Lab, which is kind of dicey when played against. It can, and then Book of Moon is fantastic even outside shifter. Even in the games where you didn't get shifter, you can still make a combo board and then set Book of Moon that nearly just guarantee win against cash. So I like those cards. I like my side deck cards will be like Swiss knives, where it deal with different situation at the same time. And then I just pull out the tool I need whenever the situation happens. Or yeah. And that's how I usually see side deck cards. Or even this even apply to some of the non-engine cards in the main if the situations happens often enough in game ones.
Okay. So one thing about side decking is I also feel like my side deck can change on a weekly basis because like the format's just changing a lot too. And so yeah, basically like I feel like I might not change my main deck so much, but I might have to if I'm changing my side deck to like fit it and stuff like that. But I don't know, like for Purely I've been thinking about playing Rivalry because it's the main problem for Purely is Kaijus and Kurikara. But if I have Rivalry, they can't do either one. Right?
I don't like that, honestly. See, I think preventing something happening is ultimately harder than find a way to deal with it after it happens. That's why I'm more fan of like ball breakers than hand traps, at least in TCG. In situation as like in purely, I think the better alternative might be finding cards that can win games after Nor is outed by whatever random thing. Like based on that logic, like summon limit might be a good one. Like you go in first, have a Nor summon limit. If they do like Kurikara, well, they probably out their chance to summon for the rest of the turn. At that point, you can just maybe build another Nor next turn. Um, or like that. And I think what's called summon limit is not even that big an issue for purely yourself. For the fact if you need to out it, you just make something with delicious underneath and then delicious and cost to take something from the board. So you can unlock the summon limit for yourself. And I think Turbo Out like a what's called Glaceon is or Vaporeon
Beauty?
was yeah, Beauty is doable within two summons. So yeah, I like I that's why I like to have things that kind of like a plan B things that works if plan A isn't going instead of having things that reinforce plan A. Because okay, if your opponent really don't have anything, or if your plan A didn't work, then things like a rivalry might kind of like, for example, you didn't even get to Noor or Noor, and then for like you got imperm or something. A rivalry is not guaranteed able to make you survive to make you get another turn. It's match dependent, and then but some limit can probably just stop your opponent for a turn, and you get turns back. Situations like
Oh,
that.
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
that's smart. I didn't think about that. Because I'm just sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
I must protect my Nor, but actually,
Um,
I don't have
I
to.
think Yeah, I think like it sounds weird despite the winning strategy for Purely is sits on nowhere. I think as a Purely player, you have to learn when to throw Nor away to win.
That's fair. But
Yeah.
Nor's my baby.
Well, just make another one extra.
Okay, okay. I
There's a
can drop
reason it's a
another baby.
there's a reason there's two copies in the extra deck.
Okay, okay. Touche, touche, touche.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Chat, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them, okay? Alright. Now we talk about building a deck, we talk about side decking, and now the big money question is the best way to test. And I have been reading Patrick Hoban's book. I just got to the point where he's talking about testing circles, so I gotta see if I can make a testing circle. But chat, I'll explain if you don't know what I'm talking about after Shu talks.
It's weird. Like testing circle, obviously, if you have one, it's beneficial, but it's really hard to find one because, like, I guess I'll just say that, like, in a very harsh way of saying it, if somehow you find someone who's better at you trying to form a testing circle, to them you're worse than them, right? So they probably just feeling like it's not as beneficial for them to work with you. They end up saying just no. But that same thing can happen if you try to find people that's also worse than you. Um, you might also feeling the same thing. So at the end, it's kind of like it's also very hard to find people who's like similar range with you because they could be. If they don't think so, then it doesn't matter. And just people in this community are weird. Like it's really hard to form a circle unless you already have one that you know. So in this cases, I would say for a lot of people who don't have a circle, just don't bother with it. Don't try to form one. It usually doesn't work.
Okay.
If it naturally forms one, yeah, you're a lucky person. You're a lucky player already, and don't ruin it. Just enjoy the time with your circle, your existing one. But if you don't have it, it's okay to go solo. Um, I've kind of I've kind of so as a solo player for a good amount of years at the beginning when I was growing up as a player, and then it was tough. It was definitely not progressing as fast as like nowadays, but I survived, so I feel like everyone can at least give a try if that's the only option. You're not doomed. That's what I'm trying to say. And
Solo
then
mode is hard though. Solo
yeah, it's
mode is
hard, but it's
hard.
like if you can't find other people, then that's the option you only left, right? It's not as bad. And then I will say um just go to tournaments, go like figure out ways to win. Watch a lot of content on YouTube. There's like nowadays compared to like 10 years ago, it's there's a lot more resources publicly online that's like beneficial to learn. Like for example, DB Grinder has a lot of videos that's good to watch if you are not that familiar with matches, how the format is. It's definitely a good place to get infos. And then just me personally, I don't play DB or Omega or any online ladder, and I don't even go to locals anymore. For me, just regionals, and then uh, will be like regionals, like console tournaments at my locals, and then just YCS and beyond. Those are the tournaments I go now. To me, there's a big thing where I think going to tournaments or playing matches against people um, who doesn't have enough desire to win is kind of wasting time. Uh, like go if you're going to locals, right? Most people they're probably just there because okay, it's like a random Saturday with nothing else going on. We just here for fun, almost burning, just here for to burn time at locals, and then maybe get some extra packs, and maybe just get cards from other people or the store. And then when they play in the tournament, they're like, if they just like give the win what they care, probably not really. At those environment where people's desire are not like that strong to win, playing against those people doesn't feel like be able to make you learn things.
Mhm.
Where instead of those, for if you go to like console tournament, where everyone's going for this jackpot prize today, everyone trying to win. That's different. That's a completely different mindset. And then even regionals, despite regionals still could be like similar as locals, but at least some people are actually trying hard to get their invite for that. And then with this kind of different mindset, people act, people behave different, and then this will reflect how when they playing the game. And then I think only play against people like those would be more beneficial to learn, or even I would say called as a play test. If I play against someone who doesn't even care, or just they care about imaginary things like online points, I honestly think it's wasting time.
That's
At least for
okay.
me.
Yeah, kind of the solution for me. Like, I was
Yeah.
lacking testing partners instead. All these pros were like, just go on Dueling Book, just go on Dueling Book, type of a thing. But like, Dueling Book also has like a mental tax to it too,
Yeah,
which
dueling
messes
book
you up.
is mind draining sometimes if you pair it up into weird people who are people who don't know ruling and you guys just sit there for a solid 20 minutes waiting for a judge. That's just completely wasting the day.
I know.
Yeah, I think for anyone who really do trying to get better and kind of feel like stuck, just go to your nearby regionals or go to your nearby like those big tournaments like the console one, case tournament at least, ideally a Switch or a PS5 tournament, and then after that some like regionals, quote unquote the real tournaments instead. And then I think those are a better playtesting field. And those are still tournaments where even you didn't do well in those tournaments, you'll probably be fine because, like, okay, I just I didn't do well in a case tournament, but that's just a case tournament. It's not that big deal. It's not like I didn't do well at Nats where I kind of wasted a year. It's different. And then if you just go to enough those big tournament, big locals, and the regionals, now you get enough practice. You probably eventually will be doing well in like YCS for Nats.
Yeah, there's a regional that's 4 hours away in Arizona, and then a regional that's 7 hours away. But I'm pretty sure I can find a free place to stay in NorCal. So those two are in August. So I'm gonna go to those.
4 hours, I think it's
yeah.
4 hours. I think it's definitely doable. At least for me, I think my limit is about like 6 hours. Beyond that, I probably would just say pass. But that's also maybe because I'm in Philadelphia. The tri-state area has like enough regional for me to just say no for 6 hours or beyond.
Ugh, we barely have any in freaking this side of the
Yeah.
US.
different places, a different situation.
Yeah, it very feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me think. So
I guess we'll add a little bit small things. Like a lot of people think regional grind is not realistic. It's how should I say? I wasn't playing last year thinking I'm grinding regionals, grinding world points. I say that as more like a joke, honestly. To me, I'm just going to all the regionals and then the tournaments and then play testing and then figuring out the format. So, like, if the war point system never existed, I probably would still go to that many regionals last year, or more because I have the luxury of being tri-state area and there were that many. But still, last year, fun fact, despite I did the quote-unquote regional grind, I never flew to any regionals at all.
Oh damn.
The furthest I went was 6 hour drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the drive to NorCal. But
Yeah. I just find some other people, right? If you're asking around who wanna like go and just share a car ride, I think that's not that hard to find. At least find like one or two other people. Driving alone for 4 hours is already it's pretty tough, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not doing that shit under any circumstances. I'm not doing a long drive alone. I'm bringing
Yeah.
like Louise with me, and we're going to regional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good times. Okay. Anything else about testing?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. We have a question from someone you may have heard of. I think his name is Pauli Aronson.
Okay.
Yeah, he wanted me to ask you if you have a swimming pool in your basement.
I do, but I haven't cleaned it for a while, so it's not possible to use.
Oh, ew. I
Yeah.
thought he was just joking. Let's see. Elise would like to know why you don't want to hear about my local support
Oh,
report.
oh God,
Just
that's
kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. Okay.
yeah. Whatever. The past couple days was just not fun.
It's okay. I was fighting people on Twitter for you. I was like, he's not the bad guy. The fan was the bad guy. Just going back and forth. And then I posted this passive aggressive tweet about how
I don't
like,
even think I
people
said anything wrong.
needed to like stop judging based on a screenshot or a tweet or a story and actually like get to know people and understand that there's context to things. And
Yeah.
zero
Like if
people
anyone
follow.
really, yeah, if anyone really like send me messages, actually type out their thoughts, well organized sentences and paragraph, I'll definitely read it and reply to it. But the one I got the other day, which is like a random copy pasta, was like horrible spelling errors. And all I do is just asking a simple question was like neutral tone and then not even disrespecting it. The guy just got triggered.
Yeah. And then he called you a woman and like
Oh, he caught a lot of different bad things, not just that.
yeah, I didn't want to quote like on a podcast what exactly he said.
Yeah, I don't even think we can say half of it.
But yeah, he really tried to take Shu down. Um, Yeah.
See, at the very beginning when I saw the message at like 3 a.m. in the morning, I was in a VC with like other Chinese people just talking about different decks and the current format. Because I think we were just back from like a 3v3 tournament and then from Sneak Peek. And so we were like analyzing what happened today at the 3v3 and then how we preparing for another 3v3 next weekend. So we were actually like play testing and then sharing thoughts. And I just got this message of like, my first thought was actually just delete the guy from Facebook, and I just don't want to get bothered. But my second thought was like, no, that's kind of disrespecting, honestly. Let me just reply a little bit, see how it goes. Just have like a simple conversation, not even meaning to disrespecting him. And he just got triggered afterwards from nowhere.
Yeah.
And maybe I should just delete him in the first place.
Or, you could also just say congrats, but I understand like yeah.
I wouldn't spare my congratulations that cheap to anyone. That's my thing. And especially now from a copy paste, okay,
Yeah, he
with
was
horrible
copying
spelling
and pasting to everyone. Yeah. Like, I mean, the first time I won locals, I was, like, really excited, and I was telling everyone about it. But, like, I wasn't, like, bragging. I wasn't being like, oh, I'm gonna put this into a deck profile. I was just like, wow, I've never done this before, and I'm really excited about it. But, like, I don't think if you didn't respond, the way I wanted, I don't think I would have started attacking you
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, I can understand how he was just looking for some validation, but he shouldn't be looking for validation in strangers.
She could just say yes when I asking him so he want a local, and I would just say cool, and the conversation would just ended. He goes like, so I went like, so you want a local? He goes, oh, so you're disrespecting me? I'm just okay, cool. I don't even know how to respond afterwards.
Text is ambiguous, so it's kind of like how every work email you get sounds sarcastic, when really it's just like people typing fast, sort of a thing.
Pretty much.
But that's why clarifying questions are also good. Let's see.
I guess so, yeah.
We have an interesting question. How can Konami TCG support pros if they can't do cash pricing?
I don't know about every pros at least, but for at least myself, I'm one of the fortunate one who doesn't care financial on Yu-Gi-Oh as much, maybe compared to others. So to me, the pricing is, I mean, it's not that good, but at least for me, I'm playing for the honor. So honestly, whatever pricing, it's not that important to me. So I probably can't really answer that question since I don't really care. But on the other hand, I think one, and I think one thing Konami could do, I think one thing Konami could do is give us clear balance update infos, right?
Yeah.
I don't need them to tell me when exactly or what's on the balance. I just need to tell me when we'll not have a balance. Like there's YCS Cancun, YCS Vancouver, and even what's the other one? Oh, 3v3 Brazil. I'm not going to that one. I think the only YCS I'm going to is Cancun at this point, guaranteed, and Vancouver, unfortunately, conflicting with Philadelphia Regional, so I'm kind of iffy of just not going. I think someone asked me earlier in the chat, so I'll just answer it here. But what I'm really worrying about is I don't know how to prepare those YCS without knowing if there's gonna be a balance for them. Like they could just be okay. We have a balance update today on that page. We just updated the no sooner than late, the date of the no sooner than, and I'll be happy about it. That's it. Like, but now since they have like a no sooner in few months system, which is basically not even say anything. So giving out like you are someone who's going to, for example, Cancun. You don't know if it's just gonna be a balance. You don't know how the format gonna be. Like predicting the format, honestly, it's a lot easier. Like we know Cash Tier has to die. So
Yeah.
right. So building something, building other decks, building other newer decks like Vanadium, other thing. Ignoring Cash Tier is like probably a way to prepare for incoming balance, but you just don't know when this balance is gonna be. You don't know when this is gonna be before Cancun, 2 months after Cancun, or anything. Maybe even for Indy. Like now, all we can do is just looking at Fall for Stream and looking at the spreadsheet he had, and then figure out any possible pattern in there and see and pray. Hope there isn't a balance, so whatever we preparing is gonna be working.
Oh my god.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, I will be hoping they just update they still have the no sooner than date, and they just frequently updating that date to fit the YCS schedules. That's like all I wanted. Because I think it kind of screwed me almost twice last year. Last year, YCS Niagara, we all thought there has to be a balance after that, since like I think it was one list was 2022 in May before Hartford, which that was a Southern list, like almost a week or 10 days before Hartford. And then the list after was after YCS Niagara in I think late September, and there's just no updates in between. I was very helpless while I was preparing for Niagara because I kind of had to prepare both. What if there is a list that we're not gonna worry about like Punk and other things, but we also have to prepare what if there isn't a list that we have to work with everything we had. And at the end, I just got overwhelmed. I didn't do well on either preparations, and I didn't do that well in Niagara. And that's
Yeah.
one. And then the other thing was, I think the other time was Wise of Philly. That was a recent one. With Cyberstorm Access release, we anticipating they're probably going to be a ban list because they're pretty much doing a ban list update every booster pack season. So we get like 4 lists every year. But we don't know how soon this list gonna be before Wise's Philly or after Wise's Philly. So at the end, I kind of just give up Wise's Philly. I'll be like, I'm just gonna play something that I know it's not gonna be the best. Didn't even polish the details on the list. I'm just gonna play super heavy in case super heavy is still a viable thing for Nat. So I have some tournament experience on there. And then
Oh.
then I that obviously was just not the choice to play at Philly. I don't even think I had a turn that wasn't drilled, or I was bricking. I didn't even bait the drill for my opponent.
Oh damn.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then I just those two like they could just be like, for example, on the release of Cyberstorm Access Day, saying, okay, there will not be a list. The next list will be no sooner than Rice's Philly. Everyone will be happy about it. We can just think, okay, the balance updated. It's just a no change, right? That would
Yeah.
be a lot better for the pro players to preparing for ICSs.
Okay, I never thought about that, but that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense actually.
Mm-hmm.
I will talk to Konami about it.
Hopefully, like if you actually listen, I thank God. Please do that.
Well, everyone complains about it, but like that was actually a really good explanation. Is that it's very like
Yeah.
core to know when the balance is coming up for
Mm-hmm.
one preparation for events, and then planning on what events that you go to, type of
Yeah.
thing.
Like what specifically on the balance? Like most of the people, most of the player, if you play the meta long enough, you pretty much know what's gonna be gutted. Like I don't think Cash Tier Unicorn. I don't think there's gonna be more than one Cash Tier Unicorn after this balance. But when is this balance? Right?
Yeah.
Like Unicorn is probably at least limited, if not banned. And there's so many other cards that could be addressed. Like if you play the format long enough, like Runic Fountain might just have a chance to be limited because OCG limited recently, and then whatever other random cards it could be.
Yeah. I would like to see Runic get hit, but that's because I lose to Runic a lot, and I don't know
Yeah,
why. I feel
and
like
also it's probably time to finally say goodbye to one of the strike cards. Like I think that it's time to either limit blue or jet or starter. Might just be starter at the end.
well, a lot of decks are only playing one starter, right?
Yeah, but well, I mean, if that's the argument, then maybe we can finally touch Jet or Blue.
Let's
Because
see.
like I think they're holding it for Megating incoming. I think late August or early September, if I remember correct. And I think yeah, we'll possibly see a balance after those reprints, so they can sell them a little bit. But still, the more meta impacting cards are like I feel they already kind of either reprinted already or they are no longer like mattering for the format. Like because this year they're not even reprinting Power of the Duelist. So what the other few such is not selling that much, if I remember correct. Um, Battle of Chaos is kind of not good, and the only good thing in that set is Guardian Chimera, which has been reprinted already. Um, the Dimension Force is just regular set at this point. Oh, no, Visa's also coming in like the 2-player thing, so that's also your reprint there. They skip Polt, and then Darkwing has a lot of reprints. Oh yeah, talking about Darkwing, I think Magnuma should be limited. Magnuma is like a card that just strong enough that anyone read it, anyone has summoned it. Probably no, yeah, this looks like a limited card.
Yeah. I would
Yeah,
like Magnum at limited very
yeah.
strongly. I really would.
Mhm. I
But
don't think that card is like meta breaking anything, but it just when the more other things we hit, the stronger Magnum are looking like. So I think it's fair to just send it to the left and say goodbye. Well, not even say goodbye to it because everything else are still happening. OCG has like got it nearly every single bestials. They all have one besides that.
damn. I could play
Yeah.
Drytron at OCT if it wasn't for Max.
Yeah.
Do you think Eradicator and D-Shifter should be banned?
Mm, Eradicator 100% not. It's not honestly not that good of card in my opinion. Like for the past couple tournament finals we saw. Yes, it's some dramatic ending that's like very good for the stream, but realistically, I think those are just like for Labyrinth running Eradicator. Yeah, it makes sense. It's their thing, but they only need a one, and that card isn't like ban worthy. And also, we see Labyrinth just get dusted for M45 the tournament after, so I guess it's okay for Labyrinth. And then if we actually think the Eradicators from Labyrinth is like more an issue, we probably got it like the Labyrinth card, like the big welcome instead. So it's not as accessible to get to Eradicator, which at that point I think it's fair. It's like a very polarizing high cost, high reward card, so I think it's okay. And then for the use in Kashtira, I never even think Eradicator is the right call for Kashtira. I think the option is always in between Anti-Spell or Deep Area as like a going first trap card, non-engine. And Eradicator to me, it's because like in cases you don't combo, Eradicator is dead. The Anti-Spell always doing the job, right? But for the fact Anti-Spell never got addressed from the previous 2020 nets where we're complaining about it the most, I don't think Anti-Spell would be addressed for the near future.
Yeah.
And then the other card, what's the other one?
D-Shifter?
E-Shifter. I think that card will be eventually like what semi. OCG has a semi for a while, so we could just get that treatment. And also, I can even see that card being limited. Honestly, I prefer to play Kashtira back then when I didn't have to play Shifter. That time feels good because there's no deck cards in my deck. In fact, I don't even like to play Shifter in Cash. It just sometimes I feel like it's something you have to stop your opponent, which
Yeah.
I don't like cards like those. And I mean, Shifter, despite yes, it's broken, but just like the Book of Moon talk we had, I think it's not as a bad card because it has its weakness. It has to be empty graveyard. It has to be almost very first turn. And then if like a Book of Moon can just book the cash monster after Shifter only lasts 2 turns and just gone. Similar situation even apply for Flunder, right? If you just imperm their first summon, they don't have the right card. They're most likely have to pass turn. Now the Shifter is completely useless or just almost nearly wasted. which I think because this like risk and benefit is here, it's actually the card is actually fair. Also for the fact we don't have Maxi, so if Shifter is the only problem, I think I'm okay to deal with it. So I think Shifter is fine.
Okay, last question. Maxi and TCG or no?
I personally wouldn't mind. I like the card? Probably will not. But I would love to see people struggle and be out like I would like to see people just burning every single brain cell they have, try to deal with it, and still not be able to do. I'd like to see that happen.
Okay. Do you want to have a duel after this?
Now I'm actually kind of busy. I have probably like a call in 20, 30 minutes for Chinese group talking about future because we have a 3v3. So this incoming weekend we'll have a 3v3, and then on that Sunday we'll have a PS5 tournament.
Okay.
So yeah, we probably need time to play test a little bit more, something like that.
Okay, that's fair. All right, how do we find you? Do you do coaching?
You can find me on Facebook, find me on Discord, and then I think that's the only places. Unless you use some of the weird Chinese apps, maybe you can find me. Coaching, I can do it. I never have a Metafy account, Metafy page, but I've had a request from Discord or Facebook Messenger just asking 1v1 coaching. I can do that. And then rates kind of varies, just depends on a lot of different things. Usually depends on how much you want to pay. And I'll just depends on the offer you have and say yes or no. But I'm thinking if I want to start Metafy or not. That's like a potential future plan. If I do, I'll probably make an announcement somewhere publicly and then see how it goes.
Okay, cool. All right. So make sure everyone, for the next year, every time you go to locals, DM Shu your locals report.
Oh,
Doesn't matter if you win or you don't win. If you win, make a really big deal out of it, and really emphasize that it was a locals.
And I will
win,
ignore every single one of them.
I started doing that. I started going on his Facebook. I was in locals on Sunday, and after every match, I would just give Shu an update about the match.
I didn't even. I'm pretty sure I didn't even like any one of them.
You sent me an angry face on one of them, and I was like,
oh yeah, the very first one, and I was not expecting a second after that.
Good times. Alright, please like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please follow me on the podcast. I post episodes every Monday, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Howley Aronson.